transitions requires faith. You have to believe because you're neither here or there. So let me say unequivocally that all transitions, no matter what the transitions are, whether it's politically, socially, or financially, it requires a great dose of faith. The children of Israel, they were experiencing transition. And one of the things that they needed as they were crossing the Red Sea, they needed the Red Sea rules, or the rules for transition. And again, the Red Sea for me is a metaphor for the actual process of transition. So the first rule that you need to apply, the first principle, the first law, is the principle of faith. In other words, you have to activate your faith in God. You have to trust God in the process. You cannot give up. You cannot look at what's pursuing you. You cannot look back and say, it's better that I maintain my status from where I came from. You've got to be able to trust God. Faith is your spiritual currency. Everything is changing now, and we're moving to digital currency. And the world is transitioning right now. Banks are transitioning, and we're moving into digital currency. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, if currency keeps the economy buoyant, well, how do I keep my trust in God buoyant? How do I keep moving forward? How do I keep my hope buoyant? How do I keep my focus buoyant? You do it through faith. There is an exchange. It pleases God. God will honor your faith. Faith is a transformative force. So transitions dictate to the level of your transformation. The greater the transition, the greater the transformation. Faith works in you, and it transforms you. If God is in the transformative process, which He is, Scripture says in the book of Romans, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. We know that transformation first happens in the mind before it happens in your life. And faith is that transformative power. This is the era that God is transforming us into history makers. We are not just going to prophesy. We are not just going to provoke. We are in the business of shaping the future. We're going to be political history makers, educational history makers, technological history makers, social history makers, economic history makers. We are going to be geopolitical history makers. We are making history makers. That means that we are affecting change at such a level that future generations are going to look back and say thank you. History makers are influencers. They influence, they impact, and they leave a legacy. There's a legacy that is buried on the inside of you in potential form. And as you are being transitioned, so is your ability to leave a legacy that other generations or the future generations turn back and say thank you. The Bible said that thy faith had made thee whole. The word whole has to do with something that is being intact, in one piece, unbroken, undamaged, unmarked, and perfect. The children of Israel's identity had been shattered into many, many pieces. They identified as grasshoppers. But God, through this transitional process, was helping them to understand you are not a grasshopper. You are a kingdom of priests. You are royal priesthood, or a kingdom of priests. You have the ability to dominate. You have the ability to create. And while they were traveling, while they were in their transition for the first fortnight, God tested them. And with each test, He was demolishing or attempting to demolish an old mindset, an old paradigm that had been shaped by Egypt, and giving them a new paradigm. And this is the paradigm of a leader. So faith brings wholeness to your whole life, especially your mind. We've all heard of mind over matter. And this is what a paradigm is all about, is your worldview, is how you view the world. And it informs the narratives that you construct about yourself in the world, in a situation, in a circumstance, within a challenge, within a crisis, or within a problem. It helps you to structure your narrative. Faith, then, is your greatest asset in transition. Faith brings wholeness to every area of your life. And so one of the Red Sea rules, again, and I'm driving this home, in the middle of your transition, you've got to have faith.